Alrighty, so in this video, I want to talk about narcissistic step parents. And I wanted to keep it short for this one, but I wanted to touch on a few things. The first thing is narcissistic step parents, they're very toxic and they're very covert because the way it initially works is they come into the life of the parent, whether that parent's a narcissist or not. They come in and they essentially begin to play this perfect role, like the all perfect guy, the all perfect woman. They care about you, the love is there. A lot of the time that's how it plays out. Maybe for some, they might have some stepmothers or that came in and they already felt weird about them. But in a lot of cases, the narcissistic step parent will come in a position where they are very loving, caring. They're coming in being this all perfect kind of person. But at some point, things begin to flip. The way the narcissist comes in is they have to take control of their partner's mind. And the way this kind of plays out is beginning to be a reflection of the parent's subconscious. They begin to be that person that the parent was always looking for. The person that the parent was essentially needing. You know what I mean? A lot of the time, narcissistic step parents go for parents that are in situations where they need help, where they need, that way it's an easy target to come in and have control, okay? Once they come in, once they know they've solidified themselves, they begin to set a precedent. They begin to go about things in a way and set ideologies and ways of thinking that they feel like is the best. And the parent is all ears. And what begins to happen is the children of that step parent begin to notice that their parent is beginning to view them in a different kind of way. Their parent is beginning to view them under the lens that the narcissistic parent has created, okay? With the narcissistic parent, a lot of the time they stay in the outskirts, right? Sometimes they'll either be more of the type to try to be liked, or they'll be the type to just stand in the shadows. But don't get it twisted. These parents, okay, are definitely not innocent, okay? A lot of the time they talk a lot. They share their views a lot about how they feel about the child. And if the child isn't moving in a way that the narcissistic parent sees fit, they act almost like a snake whispering in the ear of the parent. So as we all know, when it comes to narcissists, or as some may know, some may not, their whole game is projection. They have to create a narrative and a projection of this is how someone should be, right? As they begin to create that into the parent's mind, the parent begins to buy that frame, and then when they look at their child, if their child isn't operating in that kind of way, without them knowing, they're like, well, why is he being like that? Why is he acting like that? There begins to be all these questions, all of this doubt, okay? And what's happening is the narcissistic parent is beginning to take the mind of the parent, okay? Beginning to take the mind of the parent, beginning to change the frame and the lens and beginning to project a certain image, okay? And the thing about the narcissistic step parent is that most of the time, they don't speak up. Most of the time, they're just behind the back talking. And so what this does is it puts the child in an isolated position because their parent begins to look at them through a frame that isn't the frame that their parent initially had. You see what I'm saying? They begin to look at them through a different lens. And a lot of the time, this lens ends up being negative. The child begins to deal with a lot of doubt, begins to deal with a lot of criticism coming from the parent, begins to deal with a lot of negativity coming from the parent because they're not operating in a certain way. But the thing about the narcissistic step parent is a lot of the time it's coming from an ear range. And a lot of the time this is when the child is older. Now, if the child is younger, what essentially is going to happen is the narcissistic parent is going to begin to take control of the household, and whichever kids are young enough are going to begin to be taken up under that narcissistic parent as his own and begin to be held to the standard that the narcissistic parent sees it. Now, when the narcissistic step parent comes in at an older age, it gets a little rough because essentially what's happening is they can't just impede their reality on the child because that kid already has their own identity. So the way they do it is through the side. They become the third point. It's the child, the parent, and then the narcissistic step parent. Talking to the parent, telling them all of these things which is then making this parent respond to the child in a certain way. And what it's creating is a triangulation effect. So the child is upset and disappointed and going through these problems with their parent. But the thing is, nobody knows. And the other parent is like, why are you being so combative? Why are you acting like this? But guess what? The true culprit behind this isn't in the forefront. This is the art of the narcissist, the ability to hide on the side but yet have full control. But they never want to be exposed. That's the key. So with that being said, I want people to watch out for narcissistic step-parents. Because a lot of the time, and here's the most biggest thing about the narcissistic step-parent is the way they appear is very caring, very loving, very honest. They just are this extra perfect person. That's how you can tell. Whenever somebody's acting too perfect, there's something funny going on, okay? A lot of the time, that's what happens in that case. And so a lot of the time, parents or children of the narcissistic step-parent and parent dynamic become very disappointed and feel very betrayed because they actually viewed that step-parent as being somebody greater. You know, they saw them helping their parent. They saw them being there. And then next thing you know, they're realizing that it's all an illusion. And that tends to hurt, you know? So these are the dynamics that happen in these situations. But I feel like it's important that we recognize it early. Don't mind me, y'all. It's flies over here. I ain't got time for flies. Right? But nonetheless, you know, it's important that we recognize these parents because when they infiltrate a household, people need to be aware because if they're not, they will slowly begin to take the parent and isolate the parent from their family, from their friends, and in the most negative way, their own children. That's the power that the narcissistic step-parent has, okay, in terms of mind control and manipulation. So I wanted to shine the light on these narcissistic step-parents, be on the lookout. And honestly, sometimes the parent may be under such mind control, you have to just let them loose. But at least you know that you don't want to be up under that control. And as you begin to acknowledge that there's a narcissistic step-parent in the picture, you can begin to distance yourself, let other family members become aware, and begin to shine the light, because that's the worst thing. Narcissists, that's the worst thing they don't want. They don't want you to shine the light on them. It's the scariest thing in the world. They win by being in the shadows. Don't let them be in the shadows no more. Don't be negatively affected by them no more, and find your peace. All right? And with that being said, look out for those narcissistic step-parents, and I hope you learned a lot. We'll talk soon.